Uncle Warren 78 Revolutions per Minute, episode number 1.
Prepare your minds for a new scale of physical scientific values, gentlemen.
You say you want a revolution? Well, you know, I've got 78 of them, every minute. Hi folks, I'm Uncle Warren Bluhm. Come with me to the days when life sped by at 78 revolutions per minute. We begin with the ceremonial pouring of the brew. This first episode of Uncle Warren's 78 Revolutions per Minute is powered by picnic ants. Really, a product of Oh-So Brewing of Plover, Wisconsin. According to the carton, picnic ants is a Belgian-style ale, closely resembling the Saison of the Wallonia region. Now, the unique strain of yeast fermented warm and addition of Brett adds spicy, funky notes and is responsible for the fruity sweetness. Enjoy your short summer, Wisconsinites, and thanks for supporting our creative efforts. What's a picnic without ants? Without further ado, pardon me, I haven't done this for a while, and so I'm banging the microphone with a glass. Oh, dear. Okay. Oh, yes. Fruity sweetness indeed. A very nice summer beer. It's a summer beer. It's a summer beer, dear. Please drink responsibly. I operate the podcast controls while consuming no more than one adult beverage per podcast. And remember, kids, if you're not 21 yet, drinking alcohol can make you stupid. And now we're ready to go. It's Monday, October 20th, 1924. The latest issue of Time magazine lists their opinion of the most important plays of 1924 to date, headed by What Price Glory, the great U.S. war play. German President Friedrich Ebert dissolved the Reichstag and called for new elections coming up on December 7th. The Kansas City Monarchs score 5 runs in the bottom of the 8th to win the deciding Game 10 of the best-of-9 Negro League World Series, 5-0. Yes, I know. Game 3 was called on account of darkness after 13 innings, with the game tied at 6-6. And in Camden, New Jersey, the legendary recording artist Billy Murray is doing a session at Victor Records with occasional collaborator Ed Smalle. And they'll be performing a little ditty that the label will describe as Comedians with Orchestra. It's a small bit of fluff about Ed having a little bit of a frog in his throat that day, and the chorus calls out, "How do you do?" First to Eddie Boy, "How do you do, Eddie Boy?" And then to Victrola fans, and finally to the Smith Brothers, the makers of the famous cough drops. The legendary Charles A. Prince, the famed conductor of the Columbia Orchestra and later Prince's Orchestra, conducts the band today, and Take 3 is committed to history as Victor 19490, a copy of which was recently added to Uncle Warren's collection and strikes me as a fitting way to launch a new podcast. Here's Billy Murray and Ed Smalle singing How Do You Do?
How do you do, Eddie boy? How do you do? I'm feeling fine, but tell me, what are you trying to do? I'm trying out this voice of mine. Harmonizing is my line. Oh, come on in, the water's fine. How do you do? 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 Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. I've got a frog down in my throat. Gee, doesn't that get you go? How do you do? Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. How do you do, Victrola fans? How do you do? How do you do, Victrola fans? How are you? Late at night when you're in bed, if someone puts on Bill and Ed, do you wish that we were dead? How do you do? 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 Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. When your skies are kind of gray, let us drive your blues away, singing how do you do? Do-do-do-do-do-do. How do you do, Smith Brothers? How do you do? How do you do, Smith Brothers? How are you? Which is which, I just forget, but I'd like to make a bet. Neither one has met Gillette. How do you do? 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 Do 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 do. With those beards, you foxy guys never have to buy neckties. How do you do? Do 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 do. How do you do, Eddie boy? How do you do? What again? Gee, I thought that we were through. No, I think they like this song. Well, we mustn't sing too long. Am I right? You're always wrong. How do you do? 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 Do 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 do. Though our little song is true, to say goodbye would never do. Just how do you do? Do 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 do.
When How Do You Do was made in 1924, Billy Murray had already been making records for more than 25 years. Some people call him the first pop superstar. If you followed my former podcast, Uncle Warren's Attic, you may know Billy best for his duets with Aileen Stanley, including the immortal Keep Your Skirts Down, Marianne. You can be assured that Aileen will be popping up on Uncle Warren's 78 Revolutions Per Minute from time to time. Now that tasty morsel was I Dreamt, I Dwelt in Harlem by Glenn Miller and his orchestra, released on Bluebird Records in January 1941. Google the Great and Powerful tells me it was recorded after a well-received live performance during a November 1940 NBC radio remote broadcast from the Café Rouge, Hotel Pennsylvania in New York City. That was Billy May with a trumpet solo and Chummy McGregor on piano. Uncle Warren's 78 Revolutions per Minute is sponsored by Warren Bluhm, author of 7 pretty good books: The Imaginary Revolution, The Imaginary Bomb, Refuse to be Afraid, A Scream of Consciousness, and the 3 books so far on the Mike Phoenix series of superhero adventures. You can find out more at warrenbluhm.com, and Bluhm, of course, is spelled B-L-U-H-M. Sometimes people forget the silent H. You can read my latest blog posts and follow the links at the website to find out more about the books or sign up for updates about what is coming next. The books are not really about this podcast, except that I wrote all of this, and so if you like the podcast, maybe you'll like the books. That's warrenbluhm.com, B-L-U-H-M. Our next story begins on the battlefield of Guadalcanal in the South Pacific in late October 1942. A fierce battle for control of the small island had begun in August and would continue into the following February. On this day, U.S. Marine Sergeant John Bassaloni of Raritan, New Jersey, was in charge of 2 sections of heavy machine guns. To quote from his Congressional Medal of Honor citation, "In a fierce frontal attack with the Japanese blasting his guns with grenade and mortar fire, one of Sergeant Bassaloni's sections with its gun crews was put out of action, leaving only 2 men to carry on. Moving an extra gun into position, he placed it in action, and then, under continual fire, repaired another and personally manned it, gallantly holding his line until replacements arrived. A little later, with ammunition critically low and the supply lines cut off, Sergeant Bassaloni, at great risk of his life and in the face of continued enemy attack, battled his way through hostile lines with urgently needed shells for his gunners, thereby contributing in large measure to the virtual annihilation of a Japanese regiment." Now, this next is from RaritanOnline.com. In September 1943, after Sergeant Bassaloni had been presented with the Medal of Honor, his hometown honored him with what has been called the greatest day in the history of Raritan, which started with a homecoming parade that started in nearby Somerville because the streets of Raritan were not enough to accommodate the crowd of 30,000 to 50,000 that lined the parade route. The parade ended in a large field where a stage and grandstand had been set up and a war bonds rally was held. And here is where we meet the leading lady of our particular story, an 18-year-old mezzo-soprano named Catherine Mastice. Cathy was already a rising star, singing on NBC radio since she was about 14. She'd been doing her part for the war effort by singing for the troops at Camp Kilmer a few miles away. She was selected to open the rally by singing the national anthem. She also sang a new song that 2 local fellows had written in Bassaloni's honor called Manila John, and she led the huge crowd in a chorus of God Bless America. She went on to sing in the 1949 Radio City Christmas show and appeared on Milton Berle's Texaco Star Theater in the early days of television. When we meet up with her in January 1951, Billboard magazine reports that Tennessee Waltz by Patti Page is still the #1 song in the country, and an ad for RCA Victor on the next page lists its new releases for the coming week, including 5 pop songs by the likes of the Fontaine Sisters with Sons of the Pioneers and Spike Jones and his orchestra. The 5th of the 5 releases is With These Hands by newly signed 25-year-old Cathy Mastice, and in the recording we can hear at 78 revolutions per minute why she was selected to sing at that War Bonds rally more than 7 years earlier.
their glow. And with these hands I will pray for you. Should it rain, I'll bring the sunshine every day for you. And I'll never, no, I'll never let you go. With these hands I will pray for you. Should it rain, I'll bring the sunshine every day for you. And I'll never, no, I'll never let you go.
With These Hands showcases Cathy Mastice's lush voice, and while it's a lovely recording, I have to admit I actually became a fan of hers when I flipped the record over and listened to the B-side. It's a sweet little pop number about kissing that, if I may be so bold, in those days of Doris Day and Patti Page, might have made Cathy Mastice more of a household name if RCA Victor had spotlighted this more playful and, dare I say, sexy side of her.
Give me one little, two little, three little kisses before we say goodnight at the door. And after four little, five little, six little kisses, your heart will make you want more and more. So we'll keep going, knowing when we come to lucky number 7, we'll be tasting heaven. And you can bet that after we get to 8 little, 9 little, 10 little kisses, you'll find your heart won't need a shove. We'll kiss and kiss and kiss again. Our lips will count from 1 to 10, and 10 to 1 we'll fall in love. So we'll keep going, knowing when we come to lucky number 7, we'll be tasting heaven. And you can bet that after we get to 8 little, 9 little, 10 little kisses, you'll find your heart won't need a shove. We'll kiss and kiss and kiss again. Our lips will count from 1 to 10, and 10 to 1 we'll fall in love. It's 10 to 1 we'll fall in love.
Cathy Mastice's last appearance on Google, the Great and Powerful, is that article from The Breeze that appears on RaritanOnline.com when she was 86 years old. If still alive, she recently marked her 91st birthday. To my list of records I'd like to find, I've added her version of Dream a Little Dream of Me on her previous label, Admiral Records. She's one of at least 7 artists who released that song in the fall of 1950, and the other versions won the sales sweepstakes. She also did at least one other record for RCA Victor in 1951, and it sounds like they took a similar approach. The A-side is what sounds like a ballad, romantic ballad, called Longing for You, and the B-side is The Crazy Things You Do. It sounds a little more playful. When I track them down, I suspect you will hear them too, at 78 revolutions per minute.
Maybelline, why can't you be true? Oh, Maybelline, why can't you be true? You've started back doing the things you used to do. As I was motivating over the hill, I saw Maybelline in a coupe de ville, a Cadillac rolling down the open road, but nothing outrun my V8 boat. A Cadillac doing about 95, she's bumper to bumper, rolled side by side. Oh, Maybelline, why can't you be true? Oh, Maybelline, why can't you be true? You've started back doing the things you used to do. Up ahead of the Ford. Ford got hot and would do no more. It then got cloudy and started to rain. I tooted my horn for a passing lane. The rainwater blowing under my hood. I knew that I was doing my motor good. Oh, Maybelline, why can't you be true? Oh, Maybelline, why can't you be true? You've started back doing the things you used to do. The motor cooled down, the heat went down, and that's when I heard that highway sound. Cadillac sitting like a ton of lead, 110 half a mile ahead. The Cadillac looking like it's sitting still, and I caught Maybelline atop of the hill. Oh, Maybelline, oh, Maybelline, oh, Maybelline, oh, Maybelline, oh, Maybelline, oh, Maybelline.
He seemed to start running out of breath toward the end, didn't he? After Chuck Berry changed the world in 1955, doing his song in the style that was quickly becoming rock and roll, big band leader Ralph Marterie tried to capture some of the magic in his band's own style. Chuck Berry's version peaked at number 11 on the Billboard chart and number 5 on Cashbox. Ralph Marterie's version did not make the charts. And that brings us to the close of this podcast's inaugural edition. If you've made it this far, please leave a review at iTunes to help make the podcast more visible to other folks who might enjoy a weekly dose of nifty old stuff from the times when life sped by at 78 revolutions per minute. Here's an appropriate closing tune from Dick Robertson and his orchestra from the spring of 1941. Thanks for listening. I'm Uncle Warren Bluhm.
Goodbye now, goodbye now, I thought the party was divine. I spent the evening forgetting the time, I can't deny, but now goodbye. Goodbye now, the trip I'd taxi wasn't far. We'd linger longer if we had a car, no use to cry, now goodbye. There's one advantage to our leaving, it brings about a special kiss. I hope that this will be eternally a momentary parting, just a second, then we're starting. So goodbye now, it's just a moment we're apart. To make it certain I'll leave you my heart, but for now, goodbye now. Goodbye now, goodbye now. I thought the party was divine. I spent the evening forgetting the time. I can't deny, but now goodbye. Goodbye now, goodbye now. It's just a moment we're apart. To make it certain I'll leave you my heart. But for now, goodbye now.
What has happened here was caused by a force which, up until a few days ago, was entirely beyond the scope of man's imagination.